Blessings. Welcome to the Law of One study channel, conscious channeling of LL research. I would like to touch on some of the ways in which we as wanderers can use our outer gifts in the service of others. We all come into life with a partially performed personality and various talents with which we have chosen to be endowed during this incarnation. As we grow and learn, we find ourselves developing some gifts and forsaking others. It is part of discovering who we are to recognize our own gifts and to choose the ones we wish to develop. From the near infinity of possible outer gifts, I have chosen a variety of the ones people ask me about the most, and the ones I myself feel are worthy of thought. In discussing ways of using our gifts, I do not mean to make those who may not have such gifts feel that they should learn them, or feel guilty or lesser because they do not happen to be skilled at a particular gift. I simply want to consider outer service to others by looking through these various lenses at it. My friend Joe says, we are all making drastic modifications in our lives. We are all reconnecting to the source. And as we all endeavor to reconnect, rest assured all of our paths will go in different directions, but all knowing the destination will be one and the same. When looking at how we might serve by sharing our gifts, it helps to remember that we are all on the same path, that our connections to each other transcend linear processes, and that our destination is utterly shared. As creatures of ineffable love, as part of one infinite being within the Creator of all there is, we enjoy a communion in which, by our very being, we make far more of a difference than we ever can by virtue of our most marvelous work in the outer world. This is helpful to realize, for the main distraction to thinking about sharing our gifts is the feeling that we must be doing something dramatic in order to serve. This is emphatically not true, in my opinion. We cannot help serving by our very being, either for the forces of love or for the opposite, depending on the direction of our seeking. Any outer service we are able to add to the inner and primary service of being is icing on the cake. And any activity whatever in which we attempt to serve another is equal to all other attempts to serve of equal purity of intention. A wanderer in her early 40s and fresh from a life-changing UFO experience was writing to me about her concern for serving others. It is extremely common for wanderers to have an urgency about being of service. I wrote to tell her my feelings that whatever we did with love was a service to others. And she responded, when you told me that doing the dishes and changing diapers is still a form of service and that manifestation is only secondary, my whole viewpoint changed. And I can feel joy within. All it takes is love. I just need to love myself more. Those of QO echo this thought. For it is not what service you do, it is the love with which you do this service that makes all service equal. It is not the healing, or the feeding, or the changing, or the washing. It is the quality of love with which you do it. This quality of love is something scientists do not yet know how to measure. However, each of us knows people whose nature is such that they radiate love and peace to those around them in a wonderful way. So we each have our subjective ways of knowing what the QO are talking about. The work of learning how better to serve by doing and being is subtle and subjective, not only now, but for incarnations to come. Learning truly well how to serve the Creator and our other selves is not something we will polish off in one incarnation. It is something we can set our minds to studying for the long run. You have moved into an area that will be continued in your development for many, many incarnations, and through at least one more density. This situation of loving, serving, and trying to become the forgiving universal self, and therefore the forgiven universal self, is a sacred and a monumental task. Note the centrality of forgiveness in this former statement. Again and again, we find the echoes of praise for this universally heart-opening quality. Forgiveness seems to be a part of many outer gifts. But what are the outer gifts that we consider most spiritually helpful? People generally list teaching, healing, statesmanship, and channeling first when they are thinking of dramatic ministries. And we will talk about each of these. But almost any vocation can be a service to others. Wanderers have been suggested to have clusters of talent in the arts. And we have all been inspired by works of art, from songs and paintings to plays and movies, and all the rest. I feel that it is probable, however, that wanderers are no more liable to have artistic talent than any Earth native. Those of QO suggest that the one asset the wanderer has in discovering his or her gifts is a more clearly apparent sense of faith. The difference between extraterrestrial wanderers and third density graduation hopefuls is within the area of faith and inspiration. The extraterrestrial wanderer has more of an instinctive belief or faith in spiritual coincidence, in the aliveness of all things. This is a rather small advantage, and one that extraterrestrial wanderers can use only if they trust in their intuition. In either case, it will take practice. Those of Ra say, as with any entities, each wanderer has its unique abilities, biases, and specialties, so that from each portion of each density represented among the wanderers comes an array of pre-incarnative talents, which then may be expressed upon this plane which you now experience, so that each wanderer, in offering itself before incarnation, has some special service to offer in addition to the doubling effect of planetary love and light, and the basic function of serving as a beacon or a shepherd. Thus, there are those of fifth density whose abilities to express wisdom are great. There are fourth and sixth density wanderers whose ability to serve as, shall we say, passive radiators or broadcasters of love and the love light are immense. There are many others whose talents brought into this density are quite varied. Our concern then is to identify, develop, and share what gifts we may have. When the soul awakens to its spiritual identity, concomitant with the gladness of knowing who one is, comes the honor and responsibility involved in the feeling that there is work to do. And for each entity, that work has been prepared in the sense that each seeker has gifts and talents for which there is a use. We encourage each to flow with those talents, to support the self in using those gifts that have been brought into incarnation, that have been carefully chosen by each for the outer service, for the actions and accomplishment that each may choose to offer.